is now facing a leadership vacuum after death of Ali Larijani. And what next for Iran in the middle of the war? That's what we're discussing here on point two. The killing of Iran's top security strategist Ali Larijani in an Israeli airstrike has left a major vacuum in Tehran's wartime leadership. Larijani, long seen as a pragmatic insider, a key link between Iran's military and political apparatus, played a central role in national security and nuclear diplomacy. Now, with Ali Larijani gone, there is a big question hanging over Iran's leadership. Who takes the charge? Right now, there's no clear successor, but a few names are doing the rounds. And first is Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, a powerful insider with deep military roots. Ghalibaf began his journey in the Basij, a militia, and the IRGC during Iran-Iraq war, rising to command key divisions and even the aerospace force. He later moved into governance, serving as Iran's police chief and then as Tehran's mayor for over a decade. Since 2022, he is the Speaker of the Parliament, placing him right at the center of Iran's security structure. And during the ongoing war, he even stepped into a direct military coordination role, working closely with IRGC. And that mix of combat experience and political authority makes him a strong contender in a crisis. And then there is Sadeq Amoli Larijani, Ali Larijani's younger brother, a senior cleric and long-time insider. He served as Iran's Chief Justice for a decade and now heads the powerful Expediency Council. He also sits on the Assembly of Experts and is seen as a key institutional figure within the system. With strong clerical authority and deep roots in the establishment, he is widely viewed as someone who can provide stability and continuity at a time of uncertainty. And finally, there is Saeed Jalili, a hardliner, a veteran of both war and diplomacy. Jalili served as Iran's top nuclear negotiator and secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. Known for his uncompromising stance with the West, he remains deeply embedded in Iran's strategic decision-making circles. And today he holds multiple key roles and is widely seen as the front runner to take over Larijani's position. And if that happens, it could signal a much tougher, much hardline approach going forward. So while there's no clear successor yet, these three names are at the center of Iran's evolving power play. On the show with me is Ambassador Veena Sikri, Dr. Zakir Hussain, West Asian expert. Also with us is Surinder Singh Lally, foreign affairs and geopolitical expert. Ambassador, coming to you first. With Larijani gone, Iran's leadership is now facing a vacuum in the middle of the war. Is the system designed to absorb that sort of shock?
Well, it does very much seem so, because even when Supreme Leader Khamenei was killed, the expectation by USA and Israel, who had created that situation by attacking the meeting and killing many members of the top leadership, they had expected that the rest of the leadership would crumble. They had expected that, you get rid of the head of the leadership and everything else will crumble, and the people who are opposed, the dissenters, who have been on the streets, who have faced a lot of strong attack by the government of Iran, that they would then be able to come into their own and take over the government and choose their own leader. But we've seen that has not happened, because it seems that for the last more than 10 years, 15 years, the Iranians have been practicing this completely decentralized method of military defense based on the various IRGC units, which have almost independent access to decision making and their own sources of weaponry, etc. So they can take action on their own. The targets are also clearly laid down. And we've seen in the last 2 weeks now, the war has now entered its third week, that in many cases this has proved to be successful. And even though it may seem that one side of the IRGC doesn't know what the other side is doing, but actually it's not. There is a kind of a coordination, there are levels of command and control that don't depend entirely on just the one person at the top, but the command and control situation can be managed by different levels below that. So in that sense, I think the world has been very surprised by the intensity of the Iranian attacks continuing despite the leadership loss. And today, as you correctly pointed out, that further loss of senior leadership like Mr. Larijani and others, and the expectation by the West clearly is that this will further weaken the Iranian ability to coordinate their attacks on the Gulf countries, on American bases, even on Israel. Let's see if this happens, but I don't think it will happen because it is quite clear that already, as you've seen, that when Mr. Larijani goes in potential leaders 1, 2, and 3, you have already named who could over, we show that they are prepared for this situation and would possibly be able to manage it. But it is, of course, at all times a steady weakening of the Iranian governance structure. That is the hope that the West has, that they will then be able to get the people out on the streets to take over. So far, the people are not coming out of the streets. In fact, there's a kind of a solidarity within Iran that's building up, that even potential dissenters are saying, no, our top leadership is being attacked. We must all come together. This is a national crisis. We will not allow it to affect Iranian sovereignty and security. So this has been the position so far. And if they're able once again to show resilience in terms of quickly appointing another leader, and also the IRGC units continuing their independent or quasi-independent attack strategies, then it would not be, so far we have not seen that it has had that much of an impact.
All right. Dr. Zakir Hussain, if anything, Larijani's death is being seen as a crucial test for Iran. If it survives, if the regime continues to, bomb other countries like the way it is doing and prove to be a resistance force as it has been in the last 17 to 18 days of the war, then that goes on to prove that Iran's system is absolutely designed to absorb that shock, and it doesn't matter. You can eliminate a Larijani, but there are 3 other successors who are waiting in line. If anything, it does the opposite. It unites the people of Iran.
Yes, of course. Now, what I say that we have gradually started learning about the Iranian system, then comparing with the past with other simple system running in the world. Now we know that we are coming to the reality that Iran has prepared itself to fight such kind of wars for the last 25 years. So if we compare with the assassination of his nuclear scientist and the top leaders, the story goes like that. And Iranian also said that we have, in our army, there are 95% are scientists, not only fighters. So Iran will manage its own thing. And I think that the recent development, which is more frightening, that the US and Israel has bombed the South Pars gas field of Iran. This is going to create a massive impact in the world. And for that, what I think that Iran will also start attacking the nuclear energy sites, locations of the Gulf, and it has also threatened the Israeli gas center in Mediterranean Sea, and which I feel that this is nothing but Trump is trying to punish the world which is not siding with him to clear the Hormuz. So war is escalating. Even Trump has also started escalating the war. So what I feel that killing 1% or 2% or 3% will not affect the continuation of Iranian preparedness to carry on long-term war on the one hand. On the other hand, even if they are successful, even then they will not be able to dislodge the administration, because they are prepared for long battle on ground. And even if USA puts boots on the ground or persuade the Kurdish Peshmerga to enter, there will be long-term war, and in that the region will suffer heavily, because Iran will not spare any nuclear or any energy center in the region, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Because we know that already Qatari foreign minister has said about has slightly condemned that it was not good to bomb this gas station of Iran, because its impact will be there on them. So Iran has also opened the multiple front, and I think that the more hardline person will succeed, as happened with Mujtaba.
Yeah, which is I think where my next question stems from, Surinder Singh Lali. Between Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Sadeq Amoli Larijani and Saeed Jalili, Saeed Jalili is most likely to be the next successor of Larijani, in which case he's a more aggressive man, and we're looking at more aggressive Iran, both militarily and diplomatically.
Not just aggressive, but even united. Shweta, in the interest of disclosure, my father was born in Iran and so was my grandfather. So who would understand the pain better than us? That's one. And two, America might have the clock, but Iran has the time. It's a war of attrition. And it's very unfortunate that a war which was inflicted unilaterally by Donald Trump without taking anybody into confidence, even in whose country and, the opposition party. Now, Donald Trump made an admission that he didn't expect all of this to happen. That's a candid admission from, somebody as mercurial as Donald Trump. But unfortunately, as we say that, when you're in a hole, you stop digging. But Donald Trump not only is digging more deeper, underestimating, Iran, which is a theocratic institutional dictatorship. They've been preparing it for a long time. So not only Donald Trump is not stopping to dig, but he's also wanting to other European and NATO allies who he's been ridiculing and threw under the bus now to bring a shovel and stop digging deeper. So this is getting far more intense, and the Strait of Hormuz is probably could be the Waterloo moment, because it's not going to be easy now without boots on the ground, and a war which was purely, without any military strategy to it, was unilaterally started, and now he doesn't know what to do about it. I mean, if you look at the likes of Peter Hegseth, what do they know about war? Or people who Donald Trump has appointed in the Middle East were people who were builders and building malls in New Jersey. They don't understand the subterranean conflict and the deep, deep nuances, cultural and religious and sectarian, in terms of dealing with this issue. For them, a lot of it is like playing a video game. We'll smoke them out. We'll blow them out. Their navy's under the water. How will you kill the spirit? It's a large country with 9.5 crore people, and they might, a lot of them for rightful reasons, might not like or should not like the Khomeini and the regime, but they dislike for America and Israelis even more. So the borderline cases are going to now rally to the flag. And one more thing, Donald Trump said, help is on the way, but they didn't build a second line. There was no Delcy Rodriguez. So you're telling the civilian society the help is on the way, and IRGC did a press conference and said we have our triggers on the hand. So it's very unfortunate that I don't want to know what word to use, but it's very sad. I feel very painful for the citizens of Iraq who are stuck between the rock and the hard place. And it's not going to be easy, because first Donald Trump threw NATO under the bus, and I think the GCC countries also might want to have a conversation with them about the army bases and how vulnerable they become.
Right.
Iran has been under sanctions and tearing at the seams, has really, really shaken the world. And
Absolutely.
If they don't, smell the coffee, everybody, including us, would be affected with our large diaspora and about $40 billion.
We are already affected for that matter. Surinder Singh Lali, we were discussing, in fact, of the energy shock that India is likely to feel.
Whether the jury's out on this one, maybe the jury's out on this one, maybe it can go more south, because if they're putting boots on the ground and if they're wanting to, demolish the Khargi Island, it's going to get more deeper. So it is.
I do hope, since everything hinges on hope, Surinder Singh Lali, I do hope that sense prevails, and since we are talking of a very volatile man who does what he wants, regardless of the rules-based order, regardless of what is expected of him, we never know with him. But Ambassador Veena Sikri, if this war prevails, and which it's likely to for a very long time, what's the end goal here? Because if the end goal was to get rid of Iranian regime, killing of Ayatollah Khamenei should have ended the war. And then if it were to get rid of top leadership, killing of Larijani should have ended the war. So every day we hear Donald Trump saying we have eliminated their navy, we have decapacitated IRGC. Then what is the war continuing for? What's the end game?
Well, in the beginning, of course, the objectives that President Trump declares have also been changing all along the way. Every day there are different objectives. But basically regime change has been one of them. And, a weakening regime change means he wants the dissenters to come out and take over control, to have this kind of a Gen Z revolt that they are pushing in many, many other countries of the world, also to take place in Iran. That has not happened. The second would be the control of the energy resources, just as they did in Venezuela and got control of Venezuela's energy resources. The expectation was that in Iran, it would be equally easy to get control, but that has not been the case at all. And the resilience and the preparedness of the Iranian government and the Iranian IRGC and all the institutions that are there in Iran, the clerics and everybody together, their preparedness has shocked the world. Now, the attacks by Iran on American bases in the Gulf countries, this has been something. The attempt is to dissuade the Gulf countries from allowing American bases to continue on their territory. But on the other hand, what is the response of the leadership of the Gulf countries? Are they talking to USA, asking President Trump to continue with an effort to finish off the present Iranian regime, or are they talking to President Trump to conclude the war, to end the hostility?
Absolutely.
Now, we know from our side, from the side of India, we've been talking consistently about dialogue and diplomacy and making every effort for a cessation of hostilities, to further death, further destruction, further infrastructure, oil supplies, everything that destruction is going on for the last 2 weeks does not continue, stops, and everybody can then get around the table and discuss. We do know, for example, that even the day before the bombing started on 28th of February and the Supreme Leader Khomeini was killed, talks were going on. Oman had brokered talks
Which Ambassador, at this point looks like it was a facade after all.
Yes, exactly. And Iran had agreed to all the conditionalities on nuclear. But that's another objective of Americans, to end the nuclear program of Iran. And Iran had agreed. They had agreed. They'd given major concessions on
Absolutely. that. So, from the look of it, it was never about nuclear program. I think from the look of it, it was always about energy resources. And if it's about energy resources, if it's about oil, this war is not ending anytime soon until that objective is met, or until, of course, one day Donald Trump wakes up and says, we've achieved our objective and we're ending the war, which you never know when that happens. But that's all the time I have on the show. Ambassador Sikri, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Surinder Singh Lali, thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out for joining us on the show. We are going to slip into a very short break, but after break, 9 lives have been lost, including children, in a fire that turned a home into a death trap. The focus is not just on the fire, but the failures and the lapses that killed innocents.
खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी, वैसा ही है लाइन अरेबियन डेट्स। और अब लाइन लाइना डेट्स, इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन्स भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
लायन लाइना प्रीमियम डेट्स।
Welcome back. You're watching On Point with me, Shweta Kothari. Another fire in Palam, killing many more people, joining a long list of tragedies that continue to reoccur in India. Question is, when will we learn? 9 lives lost, 3 of them children, burnt, trapped with no way out. This is not just another fire story. This is a story of a system that keeps failing its people. Early this morning in Delhi's Palam, a residential building turned into a death trap. Families living just a few floors above had no escape when the flames swallowed the only exit. Some jumped to survive. Others never made it out. And tonight we are asking a simple question. How many more lives need to be lost before safety rules are implemented? A massive fire broke out early morning in the 4-story residential building in Sadhnagar in Palam in national capital. The blaze reportedly started in a cosmetic and clothing shop operating in the basement and lower floors, quickly spreading upward to residential areas. With highly combustible material stored in the shop, the fire intensified within minutes. The building had residences on the upper floors. Trapped families inside found the only exit route engulfed in flames. Several residents tried to escape, Some even jumped from the building. Fire tenders, ambulances and rescue teams rushed to the spot. But the timing of the flames were uncontrollable, and by the time the flames were brought under control, 9 people, including 3 children, had died. As the tragedy unfolded, response began pouring in from the top leadership of the country. Prime Minister Modi expressed condolences, announced an ex gratia compensation for the victims' families and the injured. Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta ordered a magisterial inquiry into the incident. Authorities have said that a short circuit could be possible cause, while forensic teams have been deployed to determine the exact trigger. But even as investigations begin, the focus now shifts to whether this was just an accident or a result of a deeper systemic lapse. Because this is not an isolated tragedy. This is a pattern that keeps repeating with chilling familiarity. From hospitals where patients lie helplessly to homes where families believe they are safest, fires continue to turn everyday spaces into death traps. We have seen infants burnt alive in hospitals in Delhi last year, babies who could not even move, let alone escape. Party goers die in a nightclub fire in Goa. And today, once again, in the national capital, 9 people are dead, trapped inside their own home with no way out. The faces change, the cities change, but the story remains the same. Every time there are warnings, every time there is outrage, and every time it fades until the next fire claims more lives. Data clearly shows that most fire in India happen inside residential buildings, places that are supposed to be safest, yet exits are often blocked. Flammable materials are stored carelessly, and safety norms exist largely on papers. And this is not just negligence, this is a systemic failure that continues to cost innocent lives again and again. This is not just about one building in Delhi today. This is about every home, every family living in structures where safety is compromised on a daily basis. Because the pattern is clear. The warnings are repeated, and yet the system does not change. So the real question is not what caused the fire, but when will enforcement authorities finally wake up? On the show with me is R.C. Sharma, former Director, Delhi Fire Services, former Deputy Inspector General of Fire Services, and Dr. Rajiv Nanda, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. I want to come to you first, R.C. Sharma. There's a clear problem here as far as enforcement is concerned, sir. This is a residential fire. Similar such fires have occurred, not just in residential areas, but also in commercial complexes. We talked about the fire in Delhi just a short while ago, a couple of months ago, that killed infants, children who were in NICU. And then we heard of what happened there in the Birch Club in Goa. Similar tragedy keeps unfolding. What sense do you make of it, sir? Do these structures not have the relevant NOCs? And if they have the relevant NOCs, why don't they have a proper fire exit?
So this is the big problem here. What we are talking about is an area which is a low-rise buildings, is residential area, and it's in fact dual-use commercial. Along with there are shops at ground level, and they have got residences on upper floor. Now, this doesn't come in the purview of the Fire Service Act and building bylaws. They say that below 15 meters, that need not go to fire department. And you will observe that most of the people have died in Delhi also. 90%, above 90%, they have died in the low-rise buildings, not really high-rise buildings. So that is the big irony that the low-rise buildings are out of the purview of Delhi Fire Service and other acts in all other states also. It's only some buildings like your cinema halls and maybe that your low-rise buildings, say schools and hospital nursing homes up to 9 meters and above, they also come. But these residential buildings, they do not come in the purview of fire department. So now there is no rules being followed there and nothing can be enforced. This is a big problem.
That's a shame, Dr. Rajiv Nanda. This is clearly law falling short. It's not the implementation, which implementation continues to be a problem with many of these cases. But in this case, Dr. Nanda, it's the law that is falling short.
It's a matter of shame. We intend to become the Vishwa Guru, and what we are doing is, in the name of law, that such and such is not falling in the fire safety system, the fire inspections are not done. See, all these kind of reactions from the public and from the press will continue event after event. What is required is not to hold somebody responsible, but to see as in how, in the long term, through the policies, we can draw and come within the ambit of law about the inspections of these buildings. See, in Delhi, there are so many areas. Few of them are like industrial areas called Anand Parvat. There are residential houses in Batla House area in the Jamia Nagar. They are like pigeonhole houses. If fire breaks out in one house, there is no chance that anybody can get out of these things. And nobody goes and inspects. Everybody in the political system, in the administrative system, is just merrily keeping silent over the system that these kind of buildings will not come within the fire safety system, so there is no inspection required. What we require, Shweta, here is long-term policies where all